Hi, my name is Claire Huang. I'm currently a rising sophomore at WashU, and this semester for college writing, I chose to write about COVID-19 and its impact on the Asian American community for my final research project. My essay was titled More Than Just a Virus, COVID-19 as a Progenitor of Hate. So I decided to take a four-part approach to my research for the project, which consisted of first, examining the issue through the lens of historical examples of public health and Asian-focused xenophobia, and then investigating the parallels between the Western portrayal of the very recent SARS epidemic and the current portrayal of the COVID-19 pandemic through academic literature published on the subject, and then analyzing the current climate for Asians in America using data supplied from a survey given to Asian students at WashU, and then finally, reviewing the current efforts being made and providing recommendations on how the country might properly address the impact of COVID-19 on Asian Americans. What prompted me to write about the subject was during March and April, I sort of noticed a spate of violent incidents against Asian Americans happening not only in America but across the world as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of these incidents weren't being reported widely by national news, which concerned me, so I decided to do some research into them. And after I discovered what was happening around the world, I also wanted to look into why this was happening, why people were taking on such xenophobic sentiments in a time of national crisis and in a time of worldwide crisis. One of the turning points in my research was reading Kevin Lee's 2013 analysis of the Western media's response to the SARS epidemic, which was titled SARS and Its Resonating Impact on Asian Communities. I found a great number of parallels between the two, and reading it almost seemed like history was currently repeating itself. These parallels were all connected by the overarching theme of the media's role in espousing and promoting xenophobia. So there were two things about Lee's article that really stood out to me, which were the similarity of the terminology the media used to describe the virus, as well as the media's choice to use images of Asian people wearing masks to fearmonger and conflate mask wearing with the spread of the virus. According to Lee's study, the media frequently used words like deadly, mysterious, and exotic to refer to SARS. In particular, one article in Time magazine described SARS as a mass murder that terrified the entire planet, despite the fact that there were less than 10 deaths recorded globally. So this exoticization of SARS caused mass paranoia among Western readers who directed their fear into contempt for foreigners who were seen as nothing more than vectors of transmission into the country, sentiments that frankly remain the same today. In addition to the written references to the SARS epidemic, Lee states that one of the most enduring visual portrayals that the media liked to use was that of Asians in masks, very similar to today. There were a lot of articles published with titles like Will SARS Strike Here and Settlers Quarantined to Contain Disease, and they were all outfitted with pictures of Asians in masks going about their daily routines. And by showing images of Asians wearing these masks, the media had essentially enticed the general public to associate the virus to Asian people, a technique that we still see today. The New York Times chose to publish the news of the first reported case of coronavirus in the city alongside an image of Chinatown, when in fact the first virus victim was not from Chinatown, did not live in Chinatown, and was in fact from Iran. But I think that's just another example of the vast amount of parallels that can be seen between the Western response to the SARS epidemic as well as the response to the coronavirus pandemic. So from Lee's article, I was able to conclude that rather than stirring widespread hysteria, the goal of the media should have been to raise awareness of these detrimental events that were taking place. And proper word selection and refraining from constantly referring to the ties between the SARS outbreak and the Chinese would have deterred a significant amount of discrimination and harassment of the Chinese and other Asian groups. The SARS epidemic and its ensuing fallout reflects the considerable influence that mainstream media possesses in sculpting human perceptions of others unlike their own, and this should have taught a valuable lesson to media outlets currently covering COVID-19. Now, over the past month, a racial reckoning has been taking place across America, but the same ideas still hold true. The media needs to be more aware of how historical oppression plays out in social relationships in the midst of their representation of the issues and events taking place in the world.